Infertility is not just a public health issue, but a social and cultural as well as emotional matter that has led to gender-based violence, HIV/AIDS and STIs. This is because people resort to having multiple sexual partners as they look forward to parenthood. But there is a school of thought that a woman or man is more than a mother or father regardless of their fertility status. And so, what is being done to address issues of infertility and to destigmatize infertility? Is society embracing the adoption of children to fill that gap? Welcome to this week's edition of Your Platform. I am your host, Pennifer Nyirenda. But today we are looking at destigmatizing infertility. Do stay tuned and join us on the other side as we get in detail on this topic. This is Your Platform, a program that discusses issues affecting our everyday lives in our communities. And to help us discuss our topic for today, we have several studio guests coming from the Ministry of Community Development, a representative of the Ministry of Health, who is also the Medical Women's Association of Zambia president. We also have Families and Nations, and last but not least, Embrace Zambia. I must also mention here that we'll at a later stage feature the First Lady, Mrs. Esther Lungu. As some of you, our viewers, may be aware, the First Lady is the ambassador for a campaign called Make More Than a Mother. She's, however, not here in the studio with us, but we did speak to her in a separate interview earlier today. For now, do help me welcome our studio audience coming from Families and Nations. And so, opening our show today is Dr. Sharon Kapambwe from the Ministry of Health. And of course, she's the president of the Medical Women's Association of Zambia. We'd like to welcome you to Your Platform.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Great. So you're basically setting the tone for us on our topic today, which is destigmatization of infertility. But let's start off by you enlightening us. What is infertility?
Infertility is the inability to conceive within 12 months or more in a sexually active couple. So what we're looking at is that this couple is sexually active, not contracepting. That means they're not using anything to stop them from getting having a child or conceiving. And it's also looking at the couple that also has a desire to conceive. So that's why sometimes when people put pressure within a month of a couple getting together, when they come to the hospital or they go to the health facility, they'll be told that no, you wait, because we know that 85% of those will be able to conceive within the first year. So a couple that is not having protected sex, so they're having unprotected sex, they are not using any form of contraception, they have a desire to conceive and have not conceived within 12 months or more, then we're going to call that infertility.
Are there specific causes for this? I don't know if you refer to it as a condition.
It is a condition. What are the causes? When you look at females, one of the things that we should talk about in both the male and females is looking at the society that we have today. Just age. So you find that as a woman, people always refer to this biological clock, and you find that as women get to an age of 35 or above, there's a rapid decrease in the eggs that they have. And you find that also sometimes the quality of the eggs is not as good as it should be, and you find that we do have an increase in genetic abnormalities. But when you look in our setting, one of the major causes that we have of infertility is sexually transmitted infections, which are causing tubal blockage. So the tubes of the woman are blocked because they have had an STI, the sexually transmitted infection, or they have had what we call a pelvic inflammatory disease. And this is also that is affecting the womb of a woman, that you find that they are failing to conceive. When you look at the uterus, the ovaries that are involved in a woman, there could be also issues that the woman could be having fibroids. There are certain types of fibroids which could be growing within the uterus that the woman is failing to be able to conceive. There are also issues of the ovary that a woman could be having, they could be having ovarian cysts that could be preventing them from getting pregnant. You find the other things are even some diseases, what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome that could be present in a woman. We have women who have thyroid problems that could be affecting them from getting pregnant. And then we look at certain lifestyles. You find that women who smoke, they drink, there could be a reduction in infertility. Then we look at the men. It has to be issues of them, the sperm that they're producing. Is it active, which we could talk about motility of that stain, or do they have the right count of sperms? And sometimes you find that even just they are not producing sperms as well. They could be having what we call an ejaculation or something like that, but there's nothing that is in there. In medicine, we'll call it as zoospermia. So there are issues like that. There's also that the quality that is being produced is not right. The same issues of lifestyle are also going to go into men. They could be also having the same, because, you know, there are tubes even within men that could have been destroyed because of infections.
So are some of these conditions, or all of them, reversible?
So when you look at it's at different levels that you're looking at. And as we look at reducing the stigma, raising awareness, if these infections are due to diseases or STIs like gonorrhea, chlamydia, that people are getting, what we want is to make sure that people can be able to be treated for this, because these are treatable infections that people are having. So if we raise awareness that, you know, if you know you're having a burning sensation when you're urinating, or if at all you have had these infections in your life, please let us know. We could prevent this, or we could prevent some of the infertility that we have if we raise awareness on the causes. If we're talking about issues, so on the level, if somebody has fibroid, there are certain operations that can be done on this woman, which can help increase the chances of them conceiving. Even for men, we try to see the sperm count and give a medication. And then I'm sure when we get to very severe cases where we know that, you know, these tubes are not what we call patency, these tubes are blocked, they're not going to be able to do something about it, or this man does not produce any sperm at all, then we look at what we call IVF, which is really the extreme form that we have. And when we say in vitro fertilization, vitro just means outside. So we are fertilizing outside the body, and when it's ready, then we put it back into someone's body.
Are there measures that are being implemented to try and deal with some of these infertility cases?
We're going to start training of infertility experts, because we need to have doctors who have been trained on how to handle infertility. And what we're looking at is having infertility clinics for a start in every province to ensure, because think about it, if it's expensive for me in the urban area, what more for a woman who's not working and they're in the rural area? It's even much more expensive. So looking at setting up infertility clinics in these provinces. We also have the Women and Children's Specialized Hospital that is coming up. And because of that specialized hospitals, it will have fertility services which are much more advanced. Of course, you're having IVF, like for example, IVF services will be very expensive for us to say we're going to take to everywhere. But we must be able to do the basic investigation, the basic management. Like I have said, if we're looking at issues of management of women who are coming, to be able to say, okay, your tubes are fine, you know, we have checked your sperm count for the man, and these are things that should be basic in a clinic that we should be able to do. So the government is working actively to ensure that these go to various parts of the country.
Great. Well, I think that's a great opening for our show, for people to get to understand what infertility really is, and already you've gotten into interventions. But for now, I'd like to say thank you so much for setting the tone. But before I let you go, we'll quickly shift to our audience and just get their thoughts really on the topic for today, which is destigmatization of infertility. Any thoughts? If you could also just tell us your names as well.
My name's Angela Vitembo. I would love to ask the doctor over the same program of infertility. What measures are you taking to educate the people out there?
If you may respond to that.
Yes. Our role as the Ministry of Health is to educate, raise awareness, work with different people, have real life stories, because there are stories everywhere of how women have suffered for so long and kept quiet about it, and we have told them, you are the problem. And they go to the extremes. Even men, some men, I must say, some men do come through with their wives, and they also get investigated. but the percentage of the men getting investigated is very low. And that we need to change. That we need to go to the grassroots, because the problem is at every level.
Is there anything tailor-made as was asked on couples?
I must admit that we haven't done as we should. So this raising awareness, what we are starting now to even be here and talking about the stigma that is associated with infertility is really breaking those grounds. We must go further and talk about it, that somebody can be able to know that I'm not able to have children. What are my options? And we should be able to talk about it openly as society.
Families are nations, as the name denotes, believes in strong family ties for development. Pastor Esther Tembo is here with us, and he is the Family Units Coordinator. We'd like to welcome you to your platform.
Thank you, Princess. Thank you, viewers.
So if you may begin by telling us a bit about your organization. What is Families and Nations all about?
Yeah, Families and Nations is an organization that was actually launched in 2011. Ideally is to look at the family. That's the whole purpose of what it is all about, is to try to see, because we understand that family didn't just begin here on earth, but was the core purpose that God had in mind. He began by looking at the family. No wonder even when Christ was born, he had to bring him straight into a family of Mary and Joseph. That is the idea. So then Family and Nations is coming in just from there, because we know that everything begins and ends with a family. So if a family is well set in values that really are of moral standard, standing well in there, the nation shall be great wherever they are. Because remember, everything, as I said to you, Penifas, starts and ends with a family.
Is there a specific classification that you have of what you call a family unit? And also, do you have a specific description of who you can regard a mother or a father?
Yeah, ideally you see a mother, of course, is one with a child. But there is also another one that we have come up on board with, that is called a foster parent. Foster parents are those that look for these children out there. The one that you've just been like saying that they are not able to bear children using their womb. Therefore, they can go out there and find a child from orphanages and places where they are found. So they can grab there, legally they can do that. That still comes a mother. So there is nothing like, no, me, I'm only the mother because my womb was up there. No. If you are able to be able to get or grab a child out there, you still be called a mother and a father.
Are there specific programs that you have to do with our topic for today, which is destigmatizing people who can't have their own biological children?
Even now as I'm talking to you, there's also a program running right in Kapiri. It's part of this show. Like, we have grabbed these certain women, and not women only, not even men, that cannot be able to afford to have a kid or something. Ideally, we educate them. We make them understand that it is not their fault, and they should not get to a place where anybody can talk against them, or perhaps maybe raise up voices so they can find themselves to be nothing. We still have to empower and give them an understanding that they're still standing and they are what they are, and God has made them be what they are. But at the end of the day, they are still themselves. They still need to have the self-esteem, and they can walk in the streets of anywhere in this world and still become same as they ought to be, like those that have actually got kids.
Great. Pastor Tembo will still be talking to you on our program today. For now, we want to appreciate that you've been able to give us the introductory part of what your organization is, but we'll be coming back to you to get more in terms of recommendations that you have as an organization to share with us.
Okay.
Well, for now, we take a short break, and when we come back, we speak to yet another special guest right here on your platform. Thank you so much for staying tuned to this week's presentation of Your Platform. Now, Embrace Zambia is a Christian organization which provides training and information to couples and individuals who want to adopt a child. On set, I'm now joined by the chairperson, Bishop Frank Mwinga, who has been with the organization for almost 9 years now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, firstly, tell us about your organization.
Embrace Zambia is an organization which was launched in 2011, and our purpose has been to go out there and recruit Christian families in the churches so that they can come in, and we train them, working together with Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, work together with them so that the people that we train then they can have the opportunity to adopt or to foster to adopt. And at the moment, we're working together with the government, like I said, with the Minister of Community Development.
Okay. So how do you relate to the subject of infertility, and is there anything that you're doing as an organization to try and destigmatize this issue?
At the moment, we are teaching about that God prepared family for the child. Because as you know, as we go back to the scriptures, we are learning about that Jesus was fostered because Joseph was not the true father to Jesus. Yeah, and that's what the scripture says. So it means that if Jesus was fostered, it's possible for a family to foster a child and get that child and become your own.
Now, are there specific challenges that you can highlight that you've encountered over the last couple of years in terms of going through the whole adoption process for those that you're assisting?
Yeah, you know, the way we think in Africa, you know, it's something that is coming in as a new phenomena of adopting. But in one way, I would say that our challenges has been that many people, they don't want to come forth, maybe because they don't have information. And maybe the other issue is that we need to go out into churches, into any ministries that would open up for Embrace Zambia project, so that they are given this information that you can do it. You can get children and foster them.
Let me get to Families and Nations, who are still with us on set, specifically to do with issues of perception. And I would want to know what kind of work they are doing, because Bishop has briefly touched on issues around perception, but I would want to also get Pastor Tembo's views on what you're doing as Families and Nations to deal with these negative connotations attached to infertility.
Yeah, first you would wish to know that Families and Nations, we have gone so much into the community itself, deliberately to come to their level so we can be able to understand exactly what they are going through, especially with the issues of infertility. Now, what we've done is to be able to educate them in their language, the language they best understand, and then make them know that this is not something of their making. And at the same time, you know, while we sympathize and do what we can, the other things we are able to do is to bring them forward, because we're working hand in hand with Embrace Zambia also, where we can say, okay, fine, there is this here, the other option, where you can perhaps have a child and see that this is your child you can be able to nurture, to grow in your own home.
So we'll be talking to an official from the Ministry of Community Development who will also explain the adoption process, because some people may not necessarily be aware. But out of interest, both of you, Pastor Tembo and Bishop, come from the church. And I'm wondering what kind of role you play as a church to deal with some of these issues. Dr. Kapambwe had mentioned that people go to church for prayers because they're trying to seek a miracle, you know, to help them have children. Is there another role that you play as a church?
Yeah, people, they need to know. The Bible says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. But one thing is that when people are taught, they get to know, they have the word, they are able to know that there's sometimes when children are a gift from God. There are two issues here. There's issue of infidelity, but also there's an issue of what? The issue of that maybe God did not give you, because the children are a gift from God. God has not given. And if you are in that position where you are taught that you understand that maybe, like what Doc said, go and do some checkups. Sometimes maybe you have a problem. Okay, you are not able to produce. But the issue that is here is that, according to the church, we give you the word, we help you to understand what the scriptures say, that children are a gift. But now, if you realize that at the moment, maybe your wife, she's okay, and you are okay, and you are not able to have children, this is where now we are coming in to say, we teach, we say, okay, why are you worried? There are so many children today, according to information that we have. There are more than 6,000 children who are in the orphanages there.
I won't take you to the issue of people who've been taken advantage of by people who are not necessarily genuine clergymen who have ended up having, I would call it, illegal affairs with women who are seeking for those miracles. But perhaps as we keep going on, I'll bring in our audience who I see are smiling at that thought. I don't know if you've encountered situations with people who have actually fallen prey to some of these things, either from the concoctions that Doc had mentioned, or even looking for these miracle children, as they are sometimes called. Any thoughts from our audience? We have Reverend Chilekwa in the audience. Perhaps he can also help us tackle that issue.
Thank you. It's not that I've come across any people who have been taken advantage of
Yes, Reverend.
in those particular situations. But I want to say that maybe one issue we have not addressed is, where does stigma come from? Stigma comes from expectations. The Bible says when God made man and woman, he said, be fruitful and increase in number. So when a young man and a young woman get married, the families are expecting that 6 months down the line, the shape of the woman will change. If it doesn't change, you have problems. Are we together? So stigma comes from those particular areas. The church teaches, now you're married, we expect God will bless you with the fruit of the womb. Families also say the same thing. So if it doesn't happen, then you have problems. People are saying, what is wrong? What is the matter? Those are the things that the doc addressed.
Well, this is still your platform, and we're looking at the destigmatization of infertility. I'm now joined by Mr. Nicholas Goma, a Senior Social Welfare Officer from the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. Firstly, welcome to your platform.
Thank you, dear.
Great. So, firstly, run us through the process. How exactly can one adopt a child?
Yeah. First and foremost, anybody is eligible to adopt a child. What are the requirements? Basically, there are 4 major steps. To begin with, there is the first step of application, where you have to either, of course, this is in 2 forms. Either you give a notice letter of application. This is in the case where you have someone who the child is not yet identified. You don't know the child. You just want to make an application to adopt a child. So you provide the letter of notice to adopt to the Director Social Welfare Officer, of course through the District Social Welfare Officers or the Commissioner for Juvenile Welfare. The other option, in the case where the child is known or is a relation to the person who intends to adopt, of course this person has to fill in a form which we call a notice of intention to adopt. So that's basically with regard to the first stage. So basically it's just to apply so that the central authority, which in this case is Ministry of Community Development and Social Services and the Social Welfare Department, is aware of the intention for a couple to adopt the child. Of course, there are a number of requirements that we would want to see in that letter of adoption. Issues to do with police clearance, medical clearance, and other areas which at least would want to ensure that we safeguard also the best interests of the child and the security of the child that is supposed to be adopted. Of course, after the issues of application, there will be now the second stage of introducing the child and the prospective adoptive parents. And in this period, the intention is that to bring the two together for a period of about 3 months so that they can have an opportunity to bond before the courts can now move in and provide a legal order to allow a particular couple to be formally the parents to this adoptive child. And of course, once all those processes are done, and then of course there's a follow-up to, during that period of the 3 months bonding, there will be an assessment report from Social Welfare Department to check whether indeed there has been a bonding and it has been effective between the prospective adoptive parents and the child.
Is the procedure different if I start taking care of a child who belonged to one of my relatives who's passed on, and I have been taking care of this child for many years, and like Reverend Chileko had mentioned, maybe I'm considered to be the guardian of that child, but now I want to be recognized by your office that I am the legal guardian.
In fact, in most cases, those are the kind of adoptions that would even encourage more, because already even it takes care of the questions that we may want to inquire during that period of bonding, the 3 months period, in terms of what are the needs of the child in relation to this prospective adoptive parent. But in this scenario where you have already have a relationship with this child, like that scenario you've given, those are the situations that would even normally encourage, and usually such, like I mentioned earlier, the application are in 2 forms. In the case where you don't know the child, it's a letter of intent to adopt. But in this scenario, you are just simply notifying by filling in a certain form, Form 1 adoption notice to adopt, to indicate that, of course, this child is already known by the family or the prospective adoptive parent. And so the necessary other arrangements, of course, are done through the social welfare department. A social welfare officer has to pick it up to do the other necessary assessments, just to ascertain that indeed, even though this particular person is related to the child, they still possess the necessary qualities and environment that are habitable to care for this child.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Goma, for running us through that process, because it was critical for our viewers and, of course, everyone who is part of our program today to understand. We take another break, and when we come back, we'll tell you what's coming up on our show today. This is still your platform, and today we're looking at destigmatizing infertility. The First Lady, Mrs. Esther Lungu, was recently made ambassador for a campaign called Make More Than a Mother, which was being conducted by a non-profit organization called Merck Foundation. And as I did mention at the beginning of the program, we spoke to the First Lady. Before we show her clip, we'll firstly get to learn more about the campaign and how it is faring in other countries in Africa. The Chief Executive Officer of the Foundation, Dr. Rasha Kelej, will help us with learning more about the organization in this clip.
Merck More Than a Mother is a historic campaign. Year after year, we have more successes. I remember last year in Egypt when we had the 4th edition of Merck Africa Asia Luminary, where we had 5 First Ladies pledged to be ambassadors of Merck More Than a Mother. And this year we have 9 First Ladies to be ambassadors of Merck More Than a Mother, and continue the partnership of Merck Foundation to empower infertile women across Africa. First Lady of Chad, First Lady of Niger, First Lady of Central African Republic, First Lady of Burundi, First Lady of Botswana, First Lady of Ghana, First Lady of Sierra Leone, and for today, First Lady of Zambia, Her Excellency First Lady of Zambia, which she showed a very important passion about the campaign and how her role to empower these infertile women across the country, and to encourage Ministry of Health to build capacity of fertility care and improve access to regulated and quality and equitable fertility care in the Zambia. We do the same in other countries, and we succeeded to have, as I said, the first infertility specialist in many countries, like Sierra Leone, like Gambia, like Liberia, Guinea, Congo, and many other countries I cannot remember now, but also first embryologists in many countries, like Uganda, first embryologist, like Kenya was first embryologist trained by us, and first public IVF center in countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, and Uganda, and many others will come afterwards. And this is a huge contribution to help the infertile couples mostly infertile women, because she is the one who's harassed by the infertility in the African communities, to find a place to treat them, manage their condition, and also raise awareness about prevention. Because all these trainees, when they come back from the training, what they do? They raise awareness about prevention, they sensitize the communities that infertility can be prevented and can be managed, and male infertility is equally exists like female infertility.
So that was the Chief Executive Officer of the Merck Foundation, a non-profit organization working with various countries in Africa and Asia, Zambia included, to address issues of infertility. And now let's join Ruth Kamwe as she talks to the First Lady, who is Zambia's ambassador for the Merck More Than a Mother campaign.
Madam First Lady, thank you very much for according us this opportunity to talk to you on our program, your platform.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to
start with, just tell us a little bit more about your ambassadorship.
The ambassadorship is not something I should take lightly. It goes with a cost, in the sense that there's a lot that is involved in making this issue of infertility produce a positive result. To me, every woman is worth the salt and should be respected. Every woman, with or without a child, every woman, fertile or infertile, deserves the respect and needs to live a happy life. The Merck Foundation's main objective is to empower this woman who is a victim of humiliation in a marriage where there is no child. Now we want to put a smile on this woman by providing information, education, and a health solution, so that this woman is understood and first understands herself, and is also understood by society, by her husband, by the relatives to her husband also, so that she's accepted. Because when you look at the issue of infertility in the home, our understanding, most of us, is that the woman is to blame. Why? Because we can't see when the people are married, and after maybe 6 months, you don't see the woman's tummy bulging. Then you start concluding it is this woman. What is happening? You start pointing fingers at the woman. And yet, scientifically or biologically, fertility or infertility is a 50-50 kind of situation. But why should we point fingers at the woman? You will find that the man, having concluded that it is the woman in the house who is at fault, him will go out of the house and start sleeping with women all over in search of a child, or to prove to the woman that I can impregnate a woman. And in so doing, they contract diseases, bring those diseases to the wife. And the wife now gets more traumatized, will not concentrate on the house chores. Mind you, it's not an issue of just looking forward to having your own child. But in that house, in our cultural lifestyles, there are dependents in that house. There are orphans in that house that you are looking after. There are aged people that you are looking after. This is why we are saying make more than a mother, because the woman in that house has got a lot of responsibilities, and she is a contributor to the national economic development, because she could have a good job, and surely she needs a sober mind, in order for her to perform and contribute economically towards the developmental growth of the nation.
In most communities, most of our communities in Zambia, women and men who do not have their own biological children are discriminated against. They face stigma. How do you hope to help these couples?
Yes, the partnership that we have between the Merck Foundation and the Esther Lungu Foundation together with the Ministry of Health. Our duty will be to raise awareness on these infertility issues.
What would you say is the role of the society?
The society should be made aware also that when there is this problem of infertility in the home, in the neighbor's home, it's not something that one should laugh about. So we, the Esther Lungu Foundation Trust, the Ministry of Health, and Merck Foundation together are going to train the media also. So, and this training will make you also understand, or will teach you the techniques and the professionalism as to how you can go about sensitizing or giving this awareness to the society. And so the society should be made to understand and come forward to help these couples with this information that will be disseminated to the public. And also traditional leaders, the religious leaders, the politicians, we also need them to come on board and sensitize the nation at large so that this issue can come out. And we mostly want the men to also come out, talk about this.
Do you think there's political will to fight infertility?
Yes, the political will is there, and this is why Zambia, through the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Esther Lungu Foundation Trust, are launching this Make More Than a Mother campaign next year, 2019, so that we address these issues of infertility. Through the Ministry of Health, a lot more people should get to know about the issue of infertility, and a lot more people should receive the medical attention and find solutions. So the partnership that is there between, that has in fact been there, only that I'm strengthening it up by coming up with the launch of the Make More Than a Mother campaign, is to ensure that everyone is taken care of and that the policy of leaving no one behind is implemented.
Thank you very much for according us this opportunity to talk to you on our program, your platform.
You're most welcome. It has equally been a pleasure for me talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, that's it. I've been talking to the First Lady, Madam Esther Lungu, who is now the ambassador for Make More Than a Mother campaign. Pennifer, pick it up.
The First Lady there, Madam Esther Lungu, joining the conversation that we've been having today on destigmatizing infertility. We're almost at the close of the program, but before we go, I'd like to get the last thoughts from our guests on our topic today, as they also make their recommendations on how we can deal with this situation. I'll start off with our representative from the Ministry of Community Development. Any particular ways in which you think we can try and work around not just perceptions, but also dealing with the actual action that can be taken by me as an individual to take care of someone else's child?
Yes, that's a good question. I would borrow from what Reverend from the audience had earlier on mentioned, there's a very key point that he highlighted to say, by virtue of one not being able to give birth to your own biological child does not deny you the opportunity to be a parent. So there's a difference between the two. And so many times, unfortunately, you find that even every country, including Zambia, we are battling with some of the challenges regarding vulnerable children, some of those living on the streets or staying on the streets. A number of children, more than 6,000 in childcare facilities. Why? Because the birth parents were not readily available to take care of the children. So it's one thing to give birth, but it's another to also parent. And I think what is very key that is needed is to give an opportunity to every child that is in need of care, to provide them that much care that is needed.
Your last thoughts, Bishop?
Yes, we are still appealing to all the Zambians that are watching right now that we have 6,000 children that are living in the facilities. We are also appealing to you that you can get a child. If you can not have your own, you can still adopt, you can still foster a child.
With or without a child, you are still best in the eyes of God. You are a blessing and you are able to stand out there. Then to the churches, please don't just necessarily waste your time to cry too much, to start asking women, bringing all such kind of stuff in the name of wanting to be pregnant. And then you see what? When you promise them too much, you may end up even erring. You may end up doing certain things that are completely out of ethics, why you want them just to get. You have seen even these days where people can even get in UTH. You go and grab a child, the baby out there in the bed. The idea is because he's been promising the husband all these years, and the pastor's been laying hands, laying one hand after the other. No. You see, just understand. Say, okay, fine, this cannot be. But encourage that person, counsel them. Let them understand you can still exist with or without children.
I'm almost hearing an amen in the studio, but Dr. Kapambwe, your last word.
Yes, please. And coming from the Medical Women's Association as president, one of our objectives is to promote, the health of women, to be able to discuss issues about women's health and children's health, like we are having right now in this platform. And I must say that medicine has moved so much even in terms of fertility. Of course, adoption is one of the things, is just one option that we have in terms of that. I have said one of the main causes of infertility is very preventable. If we can prevent those STI, we can prevent those infections, we will be able to prevent women and men from getting infertile later in life. This year marks 40 years since the first IVF was done in the UK. So we have a lady called Louise Brown, turned 40, and she has 2 kids already. And these are medical frontiers that have come in place. But you find there's also third-party reproduction that we talk about, the surrogate issues that we don't talk about, but somehow, secretly, they are happening. And because they have no legal framework in this nation, you find that women and men and couples are spending too much money because somebody else has carried that pregnancy on their behalf. They can actually have extortion. So we need to come back as a nation and discuss openly what are the options that we have. Again, my emphasis is that, we as women, we as fathers are just more than mothers. We are more than fathers. And that should be emphasized, and we should look at women differently from this program.
Absolutely. Well, many thanks to all of you for being our guests today. And also a special thank you to our audience that was representing Embrace Zambia as well as Families Are Nations. This is where we come to the end of this week's Your Platform program. Thank you so much for watching. Do join us next week at the very same time for yet another presentation. I've been your host, Penny Fanyarenda. On behalf of the entire production team, we do say goodbye and God bless you.
A lot of questions.